All right, welcome everybody to today's Success You. Whether you're joining us on podcast or on YouTube, I want to welcome an amazing individual. Her name is Sarah Jordan, the multi-passionista. Welcome, Jordan. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm curious
absolutely.
to see where our conversation goes.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, hey, when you're a multi-passionista, I mean, hey, it could go so many different directions.
Absolutely.
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 So, right from the beginning, I'd like to ask everyone, what are the two things you hope, two tips you would hope that the listener or the watcher, the viewer would get from today's conversation?
Hmm. Okay, so right off the bat, two words I'm very adamant about: passion and why not use success? We'll go success. So when it comes to passion, why I call myself the multi-passionista is because forever I thought that passion was a singular thing. I was conditioned to think that with all these gurus and self-help books, find your passion. And so I was exploring and I was trying to find this passion. And then I would get um, burnt out. And if it's your passion, then you never feel like you work a day in your life, apparently. So that couldn't have been my passion because I'm burnt out and I feel uncomfortable. And so I would move on and move on. And what I finally learned was that passion is just an emotion, just like happiness, just like sadness. And when I thought about it, happiness was brought on by a lot of different things in my life, different levels, but different things. Like macaroni and cheese makes me happy, but so do my children, different levels.
Right.
And why couldn't passion be that same thing? It's just a feeling within me. And so I just said, you know what? I don't really have a passion. I'm just multi-passionate. And so, I think one thing I want listeners to hopefully grasp onto and maybe explore a little bit more of is, if you're struggling to find a passion, just really sit with yourself the next time you feel super duper happy and then go, what am I doing right now? Somehow that's tied to your truth, and that is meant to be explored. So just to kind of, passion to me again is just a feeling. um, and then as far as success, um, a lot of people think that success equals happiness. um, but for me that is not true, because I have done a lot of successful things and they definitely didn't bring me happiness. And that's what really started my personal development journey, was because it was the first time I was meeting all these goals and not happy. And I'm like, how does that work? And so I found out through working with a life coach that I actually had it flipped, that happiness brings success. And so if you're happy making a cupcake, then you're successful, right? But if you lose 10 pounds, and if that's your goal, that won't automatically you may be successful at losing that, but you may not necessarily be happy. So, yeah, so to really kind of pack that in, just that, it's not success that brings you happiness, it's happiness that brings you success. So two nuggets that I hope people really kind of think about and explore a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the whole point of the Success You podcast, YouTube, and my entire being is that it's not about the money. It's not about the
Mhm.
wealth. It's about the little things that you do that make you feel good. So
Mhm.
absolutely, I
Mhm.
love how you say that. So let's dive into like your origin story. Like what is it, Sarah? Like what is your origin story?
My origin story. Is that kind of like how it all began? Is that what we're going?
Yeah, like how did it all begin? Like, like go back. A lot of people are like, whoa, I have to go way back. I go, then go way back. Like we want
Yeah.
to see your journey to how you came to where you are now.
So one of my famous things that you're going to hear me say a lot is long story short. But so long story short,
I
um,
love it.
it kind of goes back to that whole success thing. Um, I I mean, my whole aspiration life was to be successful. And thankfully I was surrounded by a lot of successful people in my life, people I would deem successful. Example, we were in a smaller community, and my mom was a bank president, so she was well known in the community, and I saw how much respect the community had for her, and she was on TV and did all these things, and that was really aspirational. And I worked for her for a whole summer, and I just saw how she operated, and I thought, wow, that is cool. So that really really instilled this success need in me. Like, I want to be like my mom. And then my sister, who's about 5 years older than me, also well known in the community as an agent, insurance agent, on billboards and on TV again. So I just had this whole idea, like, success was being on TV and well respected and making a lot of money. And there was nothing wrong with that. That was just how I was being conditioned. However, my aspiration was to be a teacher. I wanted to be a second grade teacher. And when I would share this, not necessarily with my mom or my sister, but just other people in my family, they would say, well, that doesn't make you money. That's not, and I'm just like, but I think that would be a really fun thing to do,
Yeah, exactly.
And so I started thinking, like, maybe what I want isn't good enough. So I started leveling up. Like, it was always, well, then I want to be a nurse. And then I was, my family would say, well, how about be a doctor? If you're going to be a nurse, just be a doctor. So I was like getting into this mindset of what I want wasn't good enough. And I had to listen to all the people that I deemed successful on my definition of that. So it led me to this journey of creating a life that was not based on my truth. And so kind of what I said earlier was I started making these big goals, meeting those goals, and I was never, I had never been that sad before. And I was a naturally happy person. I was a morning person. I loved to get up and go. And for the first time in my life, I was successful, but not happy. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on here? And this was about 10 or 15, 10-ish years ago, a little more than that. And one of my friends saw this and she's like, you need a life coach. And, life coaching, everyone knows what it is now. But back then I was like, what's a life coach? Like, I need a therapist. A life coach seems like, I don't know. She's like, no, I'm telling you, you need a life coach, because I wouldn't classify myself as depressed.
Right.
I was still able to carry on with my life. I was just misplaced, I thought. Mm-hmm. And so I got a life coach, and I thought she was the smartest person in the world, because I thought she just knew me better than I knew myself. And so I thought, I want to do this for other people. So that's what really got me on to the life coaching journey that started everything, because I really just wanted to help people find their truth and live that. And when I got certified, I realized that she didn't tell me anything to do. Like, here I was thinking she told me, well, Sarah, you need to do this and you need to have your own business. Like, that's what will make you happy. But in reality, all she was doing was asking me questions that I had never asked myself. Like, hey, Sarah, what makes you happy?
Right.
Hey, Sarah, how do you define success? Mm-hmm. So, Sarah, why do you make that mean more than, like, she was asking me just questions. She never told me what to do. I was telling myself what to do.
Correct.
That's why it was so perfect for my life.
Yes.
So that's what started me on life coaching. And once I really got into that personal development and started to really feel my truth, and not only feel it, but express it authentically and unapologetically.
That's right.
I noticed that I started getting braver in my what would happen statement. Like, well, what would happen if I just moved? What would happen if I said no? What would happen if I didn't make an excuse? Right. And just told people, no, I don't want to go sledding with you. Like, that's random. There's snow all over the ground right now. So I said,
Me too.
but my motto started becoming like, what would happen? Mm-hmm. And so I just started exploring that. And as you know, when you own your own business, it's just more than what you are. Like, yes, I'm a life coach, but I also have to build a business. Mm-hmm. So I started exploring with web and graphic design. I started exploring with creating a presence on social media and what that meant. And it really got me lost in that whole creative process. And so I started exploring that. Like, sure, I went and bought a template for web design, but then I got really into, well, I want to change that color. How do I do that? And so I learned how to code, right? Like, took it a step too far, but I really got lost in coding and developing it. And then graphic design, sure, I could go to that logo template building site, but I don't like that there. How do I do that? So just really got into that and started a business because I liked it so much, and people started coming to me. And that's kind of how the graphic and web design got started, along with the life coaching. And gradually the Etsy shop came into place because I started saying, well, what if I built these glittery things and put them on Etsy, and it's been about a year and it's been amazing. So that's kind of my journey. Just, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a great journey. And I think you said something really, really important there is that, you wanted to learn how to do this. So you grabbed a course and a template or whatever, and you dove into it and you started doing it, but you realized there was something missing and you wanted to do something different. So then you went a step further. And I think that's so important for people to understand is that there's not a one size fits all, in that we need to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And look at it led you to being a life coach now. And
Yes.
and I did notice that you're not quite like, you haven't put that out there completely that you're a life coach yet and taking clients. Is that correct?
Okay, so life coaching I did for 3 years, about 2014 to 2017. So I have been a life coach, and that's how it all started for me. But then I started my family, and I had a little girl, and still, I was still able to do some life coaching, but am a stay-at-home mom, and my husband works outside of the home. So I was scheduling clients around like nap times and things that were
The struggle's real, Sarah. The struggle is real.
yeah. So I was like, you know what? I was kind of like what we talked about earlier. I was having to reschedule, and it didn't make me feel like a good coach, like a reliable coach. I knew I felt like a good coach, but I didn't like that I couldn't be fully presently there. And so I said, I'm going to have to pause, not stop, because I really loved coaching. And I still get to coach. I coach myself every day. So,
That's right.
I love coaching. So yeah, I just recently, then I had another child, which is kind of how the web and graphic design came about, because I was able to do that at 3 a.m, like I could work on someone's website. Who cares? It's just me doing it. But now that they're older and I've kind of come up with my own routine, I'm like, I love it so much that, yeah, I want to bring it back. So
I think that's great because, being a multi-passionate, I mean, that's what's important is that you can have all of this stuff that you're passionate about. And I
yes.
liked how you said that at the very beginning, because for so long, I think many of us have felt that way, because I have been told by many mentors, many coaches that you have to niche down, you have to
Yes.
have this, you have to that. And they kept trying to put me, who, I'm not a box, I'm not a circle, I'm not a square, I'm not anything, but they're trying to put me in this hole because that's the best. And it just never felt right. So I like that you brought that up and that you said that about the whole multi-passionista about it, because you can't have multi-passion. So I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And what really, to kind of piggyback off of that, when I was a life coach, um, people would contact me and say, well, who did your graphic? Who did your logo? Can you do that for me? Who did your website? And they weren't contacting me for life coaching stuff. And I was like, what is going on? And I told my dad, because I would decline all these people. I'm like, no, I'm a life coach. I want to be known as a life coach. I don't want to be known as like all the things, because I wanted to be an expert, because looking at my mom and looking at my sister, like they were an expert, like if you needed something, you went to my mom, or if you needed this, you went to my sister. Like I wanted to be known as that. Like I want to be known for something. Like if I needed this, I go to Sarah.
Right.
And then, but I thought if I did all of it, it would dilute all of it.
Mhm.
Right. So how could she possibly be an expert when she's doing 20 things? Like, so, so I told my dad that, and he's like, wait, so people are wanting to give you money and you're not taking it? He's like, go do their logos, go build their websites. And I was just like, he's right. Like, my main goal is to have a business,
Mhm.
you know, um, and that's kind of what kind of, you know, pushed me over the edge. Like, I don't, at the end of the day, I know that whatever I do it with integrity, meaning what I say I'm going to do, what my products are supposed to do, what my websites or logos, if they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. So it doesn't matter if I do 20 different things. People should know and will know if they work with me that integrity is everything. So that doesn't mean it's more or less if it seems spread over different passions. I mean, Barbie has over 200 careers. She's doing okay, you know?
She's doing more than okay, Sarah.
Yeah,
Way better.
I know.
No, but I think that's great. So, I mean, it kind of leads me to this next question. What's your greatest flaw that has become your greatest asset?
Mm, mm, mm-hmm. Let me think about that. The first thing I heard, obviously, flaw is failure. You know, I think of failure. And my biggest flaw used to be that if I failed or felt like I failed or disappointed someone, I would cover it up. It was like a cat, you know, you just like cover it up. I made a mess, I'm covering it up, never happened. And now I'm finding, now as a mother especially, and I'm sure you can relate to this, you just want your child, if they feel like they messed up or they're disappointed, like, or they disappointed you, you would much rather them just come to you and get that heaviness off.
Yes.
Because more than likely, it's way bigger in their head than it really is in real life.
Yes.
And so to me, as I got more in tune with myself and more confident, there are things that I just realized, like, oh, yeah, I failed, or yeah, I messed up, but it was all from a place of love.
Mhm.
And all I can do is be honest. And so now if I mess up, yeah, instead of covering it up, you know, I try and be as honest about it, not only to my client or whoever I feel I've wronged, but, you know, to myself as well. Like, Sarah, you're a human, like, you're not perfect. So I hope that answers your question.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. I think it's great because I think what you're not saying, because I think it's a buzzword, is authentic. I mean, you're
uh-huh.
authentic. And so that's
Yeah.
the thing. That's a buzzword. And I know a lot of people don't like using that buzzword, but I mean, we are human. And now I think with, you and I know this because we're moms, and listeners are moms and
Mhm.
watching this, or dads or cousins, aunts, or whatever. And I think the COVID shed light on what we've already been doing for so many years. And
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
I just saw a video, and it made news because this newscaster is doing the news from her whatever, and her little 2-year-old or 1-year-old is coming and latching on, and oh, it's so cute. I'm like, really? You should have seen what I had to do back in the day. I had
Yeah.
3. I mean, my kids are older now, thank gosh. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
teenage now, but when they were little, it was like having triplets. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
you don't
Yes.
understand. Like,
Mhm.
what you all are going through now, we have been going through. And so I
Mhm.
think that's really important. And I'm glad that you shared that, is because, people are catching on to what we've already been doing. But back then it wasn't recognized. It was like, you're what? No, you can't do that. You don't make mistakes. Now I think people are so much more open to the fact that, hey, this is our life now. We have to work from home.
Yes.
I'm working in my office. It's not the most beautiful office. Like, you know what I mean? It's not all fancy dancy, but it's what works for me in my life, my
Absolutely.
kids,
Yeah.
it's what it
Yes.
is.
Well, and it's like, you know, rarely do we, it was kind of like how the greatest home videos America's with Bob Saget, or, you know, because everyone loved it because their whole thing was you get to see what you normally don't. Like, you get to see the funny things that happen in your
Yes.
neighbor's house. And that's how what Zoom has done for us. It's like, you know, you can, you know, I'm surprised my children aren't banging on the door over here, you know, but it's like a peep inside people's real world. And um yeah, it definitely sheds a light for sure.
Yeah, and I find it funny when I saw those videos, at the very beginning of this whole pandemic, where they're like, Oh my God, did you see her background? You would think that she could have a better background. I'm like, I'd like to see your background.
Right.
Like,
Well, what's great is I'm in the process of it's actually my husband. We're finishing our basement, and one of the rooms that we are putting down there is like an actual office for me, like where I can actually have all the things.
yes.
And I started going a little nuts about it, like, oh, I want this side table in this color, and I thought, why? Like, why spend your money on a little couch in this? Like, keep your money. That's what you're working for, to like save money. Why spend it on an office in your house? Like, right? Does that make sense?
Because
Like,
of Instagram and Pinterest, Sarah. Let's
right.
be real.
And that is real, because I was like, who are you trying to impress? Like, of course I want to make it a space that I love and enjoy, but is that true? Like, is that enough to spend hundreds, maybe thousands? I would never, but
Yes.
and as for your office, I think it looks great. And like you said, it works for me and my family and my moment,
Yes.
So
Exactly. And usually I'll shut the door sometime, but I have a really good friend and I had her on, and every time she went to go talk, my cat and my dog would come up here. And so I interviewed her first, and then we flipped it, and then we called back in, and she interviewed me for her podcast. All
yeah.
through hers, my dog sat here attentively, just being okay. And then, of course, the minute she starts interviewing me and doing, talking, my dog was pounding me, and I fell on the ground because I'm trying to calm the dog, and I go plump on the ground, and it was like video at the same time.
Oh, that's always
And we were
wonderful.
dying laughing. And I go, I am so sorry. I can't control myself. And she goes, that's real. And I
Yeah.
go, oh my God. I go, but that's what it is. And that's what I think people are craving. And that's why, when I put these out on YouTube, I'm not an expert in YouTube. I never will be an expert at YouTube. I don't claim to be an expert, but that's life. This is raw. This is my life as a business owner, podcasting and YouTubing and creating a business from home with kids,
Yeah.
with a dog running around, with a cat, usually perched right here, like looking at you. I mean, it is what it is.
Audience. Yeah. And that's the thing, is we'll relate more to that than
Yes.
any kind of perfection, any kind of filter, any kind of all the things.
Yes, absolutely. So what does 2021 look like for you, Sarah, in your multi-passionate business?
Yeah. So I used to be a bigger picture person.
Mhm,
100%. I was a planner. Still am.
mhm.
But I know that when I plan, God laughs. We've all heard that.
Yep.
And so what I do now, instead of saying, I mean, definitely I have goals for my business and personal life, but
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily married to them. Right. So how I answer that question is, honestly, I hope for 2021, I'm still being consistently me and honoring my truth. And maybe the things I want will happen and maybe they won't, but hopefully I'm able to stay authentic, that word. Um, in the perfect world, I would like for my Etsy shop just to continue to grow as it is. And, that's been really interesting to me, because I used to think I was just making stickers and like glittery things, but people, just like you shared with me, put a lot of meaning on these stickers. And there have been some stories that I have heard on why people are getting stickers. And I'm like, this is way more than that. Like, I'm more than a sticker, you know what I mean? Like, it was cool to see that stickers can make such an impact in people's lives. And so I hope to just continue to do that. Trying to all the business people say, like, scale, whatever that means. I feel like that means grow, so I'll just say it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so business wise, just continue to grow organically and authentically, and personal, same thing, just being happy and healthy.
If someone wanted to, Sarah, if someone wanted to start like a business today, what would be your first recommendation for them?
Mm. If someone wanted to start a business, I would make sure, well, first I'd ask them why. Just why would you want to do that? Because when I first started a business, it's because I wanted people to think I was cool because I owned a business. It looked so much cooler on a Facebook profile if you were a CEO of something or the owner of something. So
And when you're really working in it, it's not that fun all the time.
right? But that's the thing is like, I've never been more uncomfortable in my life. And it really does go back to that, that why, or that passion or that truth of yours, because that's what's going to pull you out of the crappy days. Like my day hasn't been so great business wise. I've run into a huge snafu that I'm trying to work out as, I'm here presently. Yes. Right. But I'm just like, I have enough fuel to keep going and to figure that out. So your why is really important because it truly is when everything fails and you could just easily go, you know what? It's not worth it. That why is what's going to catapult you to that. Yes, it is, because this is what you want. Like, keep going.
Yes.
So for anyone wanting to start a business, to really make sure it's your why, not your mother's why, not your sister's why. You're not doing it to impress anyone. Stay true to you, even if it doesn't make sense. Like it didn't make sense to me to make stickers, but I just did it because I wanted to, and now I'm so glad I did. So just to really get real with that why.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think you touched on something important when you said, hey, I'm dealing with a big snafu. I shared it earlier in a meeting that, let's get real.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting stimulus checks. I didn't get a stimulus check and I couldn't figure out why. And, I go to the IRS and they're like, we don't have any information on you. And I had to pull up all these documents and it shows that they have my taxes. But because I was a late filer because that's how my accountant has always done, an extension, because it
Mhm.
basically think about those. When they do extensions, it's because they're overwhelmed.
Yes.
And so they have to do an
Yes.
extension. Well, when you did an extension last year during COVID at the beginning, it was big time. I mean, it really put you behind. And so we had to
Yeah.
mail mine in. And so I had to go through all of this and I can see it, but they haven't actually filed it. That's why I'm not getting a stimulus check. So while everybody's getting a stimulus check, I didn't get one. But my thing shows, well, now if you want one, you now have to go file your new taxes, 2020 taxes, and you have to like check that I give it to
Oh,
you. And I'm like, but that's so unfair, but that's just the system. And it's been a huge thing for me. But let's be real, when you're a business owner, you're at the mercy when something like this happens. This is so unprecedented that, I mean, that's real, Sarah. So I understand your snafu. It's okay to get real. It's okay. Like, I'm here presently with you, and I was here presently earlier in my meeting, but I was like, dude, like,
yeah.
why? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. You show you have my taxes, but they're
Yep.
saying that they're not filed, but they are there. I have all that anyway. So yeah, so I get it.
Well, and just like you said, that it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And if it were like $5, you'd probably be like, okay, like it's not worth all that.
Yeah.
Like if it were someone else's why, it's not worth all that. If I'm just doing it for whatever, it's not worth all that. But it's significant. And when your why is tied with your truth, it's significant. And so you do keep going even when you're just like you don't know how many. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You know how many times like I have just shut the laptop. I'm like, I'm done. Pixel Bash is dead. I'm done. I don't want to do it. It's done.
Yes.
And then I go get a kombucha or something, and I sit down there for like 3 minutes, and I'm like, oh, but what if? And then I pick up the laptop, open it up, and blah, blah, blah. It's like I can't stop. I really can't. And yeah, so just like with the stimulus check, it's like there's just too much to not keep going.
Right. And I understand it's a system, and I'm I look at it from the standpoint, I'm very thankful that I'm not someone that if I don't
Yeah,
have that stimulus check, I'm going to lose my house tomorrow.
right. Or
I'm
people aren't
very
going to eat.
right.
Yeah.
I'm very, very thankful for that. But I know there's a lot of people in my situation. And so I'm frustrated. I can only imagine the people that don't have the resources, that don't have the ability to get on, how horrible that must be for them. And so that's where my frustration comes from, is that there's got to
Yes.
be something better. There's got to be a different system, except, I read on there that says, file your taxes and hopefully you can get it then. And I'm like, but wait a minute. Like that
Like,
doesn't it doesn't make sense in my brain. And so um yeah, so like when you have a snafu and you're working from home and you're your own business owner, you're like, oh geez, and you need 5 minutes sometimes. And I think that's okay.
yeah. Yeah. And you said something too powerful. You said, I'm at their mercy. I literally said that maybe an hour before we got on. I'm like, I'm just at their mercy. Like, because they're really it's basically an issue with the software with my cutting machine, my Cricut.
Mhm.
It's their software. And I'm just like, I can't fix it. Like, I can't fix it. I've done everything I can. And that is, a hard feeling. Like, like you've done everything you can. And I just, instead of like blowing up on the customer service lady today, her name was Angel, incidentally. Um, I was just like, you know what? It's not her fault. Who knows whose fault there is, but I know I can't control it. I've done everything I can, and Angel has done everything she can.
Mhm.
So I just have to let it go and figure something else out. So do I take all the stickers out of my shop? Maybe, but I've got other things other than stickers. I've got other things to offer. It's not going to be the end of stickers, so
Right.
it's just like, okay, again, not tied to the bigger picture. Yes, stickers are like my big seller, but I can move past that. I can make more work. So
Right. But it's just crazy, isn't it, Sarah, that it doesn't make sense. Like you can't be the only person that's ever had this issue. There's got
right.
to be a solution. I mean, and from coding and stuff, there's got to be a solution. Somebody's has to have a solution to fix it, because that to me doesn't make sense either. You know what I mean? Like you have a business and you use this product, and this product is sold all over the world. I mean,
Yes.
millions of units and stuff, and you would think that someone would fix it and just be like, okay, I've done everything. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
I get technology. I mean, I get technology. It's supposed to help us. And a lot of times it's so
Yes.
frustrating.
When it works, it's great. When it doesn't,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So I know,
Yeah.
Sarah, it's crazy. We could literally talk forever about all this different stuff. I'm telling you, it's crazy. But Sarah, if people wanted to get a hold of you for whatever, whether it be graphic design, your Etsy shop, your stickers, your cute little paperclip for my books, which I
Yeah.
absolutely love. I was so excited to get that. A doodler logos, your
Yeah.
life coaching, whatever. How do they get a hold of you? And of course, we'll link all this in everything that I post, but how do they get a hold of you?
So right now, I think the best way is just to go to pixelbashdesigns.com. I have the multi-passionista.com, but adding the life coach stuff, which is why it's under maintenance right now. But so that used to be my main hub. But
Oh,
right now it is just pixelbashdesigns.com, and you'll find the store and a way to contact me on my social medias, and then obviously the graphic and web design that I offer. So that, and then on social media, I'm at the multi-passionista on Instagram, and that's about it.
yeah, no, I think that's great. Your Instagram is beautiful, by the way. It's very
Oh,
enlightening. It's very fun. It is. It's very
thank you.
fun. It's
I hope so.
yeah, no, it is. It's awesome. I mean, that's what like helped draw me to you. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. And I love your website. And I think that's great that you have the multi-passionista, because I think, people are going to get, and they're like, wait, why didn't I get that? Because I bet if you checked out the value of that, even if you didn't post anything, I bet the value of that domain alone is crazy.
I have got that when I first switched my name I to that. I people started DMing me going, why didn't I think of that? That's how I feel. And I hope that inspires people. It's like, that'll be like the whole
Mhm.
like underlying of my coaching, is just to really help people. And excuse my colorful language, it's not too bad, but I mean, I basically thought I was a shit show because I was bouncing from this to that.
Yes.
And what all I was doing, that was loud, I'm so sorry. And all I was doing was just exploring my soul. And right. So if you got to explore, some people just are born like Ryan Seacrest. He's just born like, I just know I'm going to be on the radio. I wasn't that person, you know,
Right.
so I had to explore, and that's okay. So, so I hope that's what I hope to bring with my coaching, is just to really help people just really hone in on their truth and how to let that guide them.
Well, I think, Sarah, if I would have found you years ago, I mean, I've been doing this for a couple decades, but if I would have found you when I got my first expert mentor guru program, whatever, I think I would have saved a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I mean, I would have, because I've always been this person. I've always been told I can't do all this stuff. You
Yeah.
have to pick one thing. And I completely understand it, just like you do. You understand that it has to make sense to people. You completely understand that. But you can
Right.
also tie all of that together.
Yeah.
And I know for me, it wasn't until like the pandemic that when I just tuned everybody off and I just stopped listening to everybody and I just got within myself, that I'm like, you know what? Like, this is what I meant to do. And this makes sense to me. That other stuff
Yeah.
doesn't. And I may not be a millionaire like all these experts and gurus.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because right now I'm extremely happy and this feels good to me,
Yeah.
doing all of this multi-passionate stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. And my final thought on that is, you know, at one time when I was figuring all this out, I had like 6 Instagram accounts. Now we know how hard, like how much time, I should say,
yeah.
it takes to have one business account, and I had 6 going, and I thought, no. So, you know, my final thought there is, I just told myself, if it could live in one heart, it can live on one Instagram page.
Yes.
That's it. And so I still try to figure out how all of it works out, but I just post what I post. And
Yes.
you know, it doesn't make sense all the time, but that's okay. The people who get me get it, you know, and that's what makes.
And I think, Sarah, you nailed that on the head, because I think moving forward in 2021 and beyond, it's not about what everybody else is doing. It's not about
Yes.
this, that, because I think people are realizing, especially staying home. I'm sorry. I live in the Midwest. My outside right now is dirty. It's grimy. It's full of gross snow. Don't eat any colored snow but white.
I know. I know.
So I
Yeah.
get those beautiful pictures. I get as many snow pictures as there are. But other than that, my trees are dead. There is no prettiness to it. It is
Mm-hmm.
what it is. And I think that's what people are craving. I think people are, I think 2020 really showed us what we really wanted as humans. And I think we're making a shift. And I think being multi-passionate, I think is going to be huge moving forward.
Well, great. I love hearing that. Well,
Yeah,
thanks. That's
absolutely.
great.
So Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the Success You podcast and the YouTube channel. I really, really greatly appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone. It's nice to see you.